Good. Well, good morning, everybody. Let me start off by introducing the team that's standing beside me here today. I have Congressman Bill Arrakis with us here today. I have County Administrator Dan Biles, Mark Bellis, our Director of Organizational Performance Management, Ralph Lair from Government Affairs. I have Chief Sean Whited from Pasco Fire Rescue. I have Sheriff Naco, Kevin Guthrie, our ACA for Public Safety, and I think I have everybody now, and I have some other representatives from our fire rescue team and our sheriff's office. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to start off by saying our EOC team, our sheriff's office, and Pasco County Fire Rescue are working around the clock to make sure our citizens in Pasco County are safe and secure. I also want to thank the employees from Pasco County in the sheriff's office and fire rescue for all that they're doing to make sure our citizens in Pasco County are safe and secure. It's important right now that all of our citizens follow the directions that you will hear today. You can also go to PascoCountyFlorida.net for updates on Hurricane Irma and for the latest actions Pasco County is taking. You can also watch for weather updates, weather alerts, local media outlets, or like I said, the county website. And we also have social media sites that will constantly stay updated too. Again, we have a great team in place, an excellent team in place. And the number one goal is to make sure that the citizens of Pasco County stay safe, secure, and come out of this in a good way. We know this is a scary time for lots of people. But again, I wanted to reiterate that we're doing everything we can to make sure that each one of our citizens remain safe during this time. Again, we want to thank all our citizens that are out there helping each other. I witnessed it yesterday myself. There's a number of citizens that are working together, helping each other, whether it be in the sandbag lots or helping people cut down trees or putting away their things in their yards. Come together, work with each other. One more thing I want to mention too, we talk about shortages on fuel and water. I will ask you to please, if you have enough water, don't hoard water. Our citizens, there's some citizens that still don't have water and they need it. So please just take what you need. And if you don't need to fuel up your vehicles and you don't plan on leaving, please save that fuel for people that are planning on leaving. So with that, what I'd like to do now is bring up Congressman Bill Arrakis.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike. This is a great community. They stick together and help each other. So we're very fortunate to live in this community. I will tell you that I am responsible for bringing the resources down, and we will pass a bill today in the House that will include Irma as far as the resources are concerned. Roughly $15 billion, but we'll take care of Harvey as well. So in any case, we want to make sure that those funds come to Pasco County, of course, the entire Tampa Bay area, and I'll be responsible for that. But again, this is a wonderful community. They're doing an outstanding job here. I just went through a briefing at the Emergency Operations Center, and please stay safe, folks. Follow directions. This is a big storm, and we're all in it together, and we'll prevail, but we've got to follow directions. So thank you very much, and God bless everyone. Yeah, we've got our great Sheriff, Chris Naco.
Go ahead. Oh, you got to go? Okay.
Go ahead, Sheriff.
All right.
I'll go after you.
Everything, just like this press conference, everything's on the fly right now with the storm. But the message out there for all residents, everybody in the community, I wish we had a cute and cuddly statement. I wish, make everybody feel good. But this is the time you have to be alert. In an era where everybody gets a trophy, there are no trophies right now, but you better have a plan. You better be ready. I ask everybody, if you want information, all of our emergency operations with the county and with the sheriff's office, we have it online. So go to Pasco Sheriff's Office Twitter account, follow us there. Go to our Facebook account, Pasco Sheriff's Facebook. Our PIOs, everybody are going to be working 24/7. We will have updated information so we can get that out there to you. The big thing we're going to be preaching, and you're going to hear from Kevin Guthrie talking about the evacuation plans, and along with County Administrator Dan Biles talking about where the shelters and where the evacuation plans are. The big message is about personal responsibility. You have to take care of yourselves and your family. We are going to do everything we can, but there's not enough of us. We can't hold everybody's hand. We're going to try to, but you have to take that personal responsibility. Have that plan. Tell your loved ones where you are. Call them up, tell them where you're going, because the last thing we want to do is have to be looking for people that are safe and out of the area. And don't wait until the last minute. Start going now. Start putting that plan in place right now. Don't say I'm going to wait until Saturday night. It may be too late. We don't know. We're dealing with a hurricane. We don't know what it's going to do. Right now, we're putting plans in place, but at the same time as we know when it's 90-mile-per-hour winds, we can't respond out there. It's too hard for our members. We're putting people's lives at risk. The one thing is, you hear a lot of times about law enforcement receiving military vehicles and equipment. I'm telling you all right now, this is why we need them. We're going to have a better response because we have that equipment out there. So I just want to put that out there because it is critical. You are going to see military-style vehicles out in those roads in very bad conditions, but that they're out there because they're going to try to save lives. I know one question will be raised about, citizens want to know about guns, what they can do about guns. I'll make it very simple. Go to Florida Statute 790.01. All the information will be there. I don't want anything misinterpreted. You can go right from the statute and read everything right there. The other one is look at the golden rule. Treat others as you'd want to be treated. I feel bad for clerks at stores right now, the bank tellers. People are fighting over gas, over water. We're all in this together. We're one family. And I ask of you, please look out for your neighbors. If you have a neighbor and they're a senior citizen and they don't have anybody to lean on, go over there and lean on them. Go help them out. Go over there and, make sure they're okay. Because I get it. We had storms at Houston. You watch the news, you're seeing North Korea, you're seeing everything going on. Now you got this hurricane, you got a couple more coming through, and everybody is on nerves. But the one thing I ask is care about other people, because what we can't do is have infighting. We got to make sure our family stays together, that we're all united. With this storm, you never know what's going to happen. We don't know which way it's going to jog left or right. And remember, Mike Tyson had that quote, everybody has a plan until you get punched in the mouth. We don't know how we're going to get punched. We don't know what this storm's going to do, but no matter what happens, we've been in this fight before. We've got punched, and we recovered, we got up, and we did what we had to do to protect our citizens. As a community, we got together. Same thing applies here. We're putting plans in place, but we don't know what's going to happen. But I can tell you a couple things. One is, we're going to go out there and we're going to rescue our citizens that are in need. When this situation happens, we know there are going to be rescue situations. We're going to be working side by side with fire rescue, and we're going to be rescuing our citizens. We're going to be making sure that there's law and order. If there are looters out there, I'm not going to have a fancy statement. We got a reputation for being tough on crime, and we'll prove it again and again, over and over again. You're not going to come to Tampa Bay. You're not going to come to Pasco County. Our family's too strong, and we're not going to allow anybody to take advantage of the situation. The other one is, for those that are in mandatory evacuation areas, please, we're not dragging people out of their houses. This is where your responsibility comes in. If you want to risk your life, that's your choice. But if you have small children, if you have elderly members that can't take care of themselves, you absolutely have a responsibility. And no matter what happens to them, it's going to be on your shoulders. So again, I want to reiterate, like the Congressman said, like the Chairman said, we want to thank our entire team. We got an outstanding team. They're great people. We want to thank the families of our members. Most importantly, I ask everybody to pray. If there's one thing you do right now, pray. Pray that everybody stays safe. With that, I want to introduce Dan Biles, County Administrator.
Well, thank you, Sheriff Nago. I appreciate that. And I want to kind of echo what everybody else has said, which is, we have a great team in place throughout the community, whether our partners at the Health Department, the Salvation Army, and our other partners out there. We've really pulled together and built a great team that's worked to prepare the county for the days ahead. Now, as the sheriff said, he used Mike Tyson's phrase. I like the phrase, no plan survives first contact with the enemy. That said, we've put a lot of plans in place, and so depending on what the weather throws at us, we're ready. And it's just a matter of adjusting to that as we go forward over the next few days. We have shelters in place. We've already started rolling out the different evacuation plans. And again, I'll reinforce that. If you are in an area or in a facility where we have suggested or recommended or made a mandatory evacuation, please heed those warnings. This is a very dangerous storm. We are expecting winds in excess or up to Category 2 winds in Pasco County right now. And if that track changes, and it's been changing over the last 24 hours, it could be more dangerous than that. So please take heed of those evacuation orders. Kevin Guthrie will go through those in a little more detail in a second. Nowhere to go. We have Fasano's, Senator Mike Fasano's, that shelter is open for special needs. Those individuals have been identified, and we are out gathering those right now and working on getting those to that shelter. We're also opening here shortly 10 other shelters across the county, working with the sheriff's office and the school district to get those open and in place so that you can go to those. And then following that, we'll have even more shelters opening as we go into later this evening and tomorrow. So there are places to go to in the county. Be cognizant of the traffic as you get out there, because as Pinellas evacuates, they are going to go through Pasco County. So make sure you understand where you're going, and be prepared and be ready for that. There are plenty of ways to stay contact and up to date with the information that's going on. We are working hand in hand with our partners at the sheriff's office to put out information both on their side and the county's website and the county's different Twitter feeds and Facebook feeds. We've linked them all of ours together so you can get them regardless of which feed you follow. But we're working hand in hand to make sure that we all get the same message out, we get the same information out across the entire county. So please stay up to date on that so you know what's going on in the local area and what we are doing. And again, this is a dangerous storm headed our way, or headed just to the east of us. Be prepared and be ready, and listen to what we are saying and the things that are coming out of the county. We are now down to the last 36 hours or so before we start seeing tropical storm winds. So we are in the last time of that. So now's the time to get your friends and family together, have a safe place to go, especially if you are in those mobile homes, those other areas that we've identified. Please find a place that's safe to go to, whether it's with your friends and family, with neighbors, or one of our shelters, or somewhere else. Please get out of there, because those are not going to be safe places as we go into this storm. So thank you for that. And again, we got a great team out there doing great work across the enterprise, across the community, with all the various agencies working together from the federal level to the state level to the local community level. I want to thank them for that again. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Kevin Guthrie to go into a little more detail about the evacuation zones and the shelters and some of the timings of those. So again, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Biles. My name is Kevin Guthrie. I'm the Assistant County Administrator of Public Safety, and during these times, I also act as the Emergency Management Director for the county. One of the first things I want to read to you is a statement from Linda Cobb, the Public Information Officer for Pasco County Schools, regarding Superintendent Kurt Browning. He was wanting to be with us this morning, but she wanted me to read the following. The superintendent is concerned about some of the extremely impoverished students and their families in the Lacucci area, so he is working diligently with his staff to start an evacuation of those students in that area to a nearby shelter. So he's working with them, and he could not be here with us today. The next thing that I want to talk about is, and I've got several bullet points we're going to have to talk about, so please bear with me. I'll try to be as brief as I can. As folks get ready to go to the shelters, we need to make sure that they put together a go bag. Disaster supply kit that includes flashlight, batteries, cash, first aid supplies, at least 2 weeks worth of medications. On the medications, by the order of the executive order issued by the governor, allows patients to go and refill their medications in advance of their expiration date. So they can go to their regular pharmacy underneath a state of declaration and get those pharmaceuticals refilled. If they need to know what else to put in their go bags, then they need to go to ready.gov. FEMA has a fantastic site that will walk them through building a plan kit, how many people they have in their family, their pets, and exactly what they need to put in their kit. If you are not in an area that is advised to evacuate and you decide to stay home, plan that you have adequate supplies in case you lose power, for several days. I want to set an expectation very clearly here on behalf of the power companies. The power companies will not be able to go out and assist you in tropical storm force sustained winds. They will not assist in hurricane sustained winds. There is a potential that we will be without power for several days before they can even start repair work. So again, folks need to understand, and our residents need to understand, they may be without power 3, 4, 5 days. We're going to work to restore it as fast as we possibly can. We do have representatives in our EOC already from all of our major electric companies, and they will be working with us diligently to get the power back on, but we need to make sure that everybody understands it will be days if you lose power before we can get it restored. What I would like to talk about right now is the risk with the rain bands. We're going to have life-threatening high winds. We're going to have life-threatening storm surge. It's estimated right now that we're going to see 3 to 6 feet of storm surge, but that is likely going to increase as the hurricane approaches. There's going to be a moderate risk of flooding. Our system right now has been pumped down for several days, almost a week now, and we are ready to take the storage capacity. We will be okay so long as we don't get more than about 8-9 inches of rain. If we start to get into that time where we get into double digits, or we get into 2 or 3 inches within an hour, we will flood. The system will recover if we have 2 to 3 inches in an hour, but again, we get a lot of rain in a short amount of time or a lot of rain in a long amount of time. Those are our 2 worst case scenarios. But again, based on predictions, we are not anticipating flooding issues because the system has been pumped down for the last week. There's also the risk of isolated tornadoes. We want to make sure that people understand, do not go outside. Do not, if you're in between bands, do not go outside. Stay in your home because you never know when those bands are going to kick back up. In reference to those, that information, residents with the strong winds, residents are strongly encouraged. Do not leave anything outside your home that is not tied down. Trash cans, recycling bins, loose lawn furniture, barbecue grills, anything that wind will pick up and carry, you need to move inside your garage, inside your home, but keep it secured. You do not want your stuff flying into your home, or worse, your stuff flying into somebody else's home. So please make sure that that is taken care of before we start to see the arrival of those tropical storm force winds. Local actions, evacuations. So I'm going to let the photogs know that I'm going to be going over here behind our Health Department Director, Mike Napier, to give you an example of what we're talking about. So as I do that, I am going to be moving away from the microphone. I will do my best to angle it in that direction and talk very loudly. I'll talk to as much of it as I can from here, but then I'll go over there and point that out. And actually, if I'm going to get Jared to help me out with that, if you can point to it, because I know you were extremely involved in this this particular design. So we're going to have, and this will work out very well. So Jared Hill, the Director of Emergency Operations for the Sheriff's Office, will assist me. We worked on this plan last night together for about an hour, and then he went back with his team at the Sheriff's Office and worked on it for another hour, hour and a half. The area to the west of US 19, and Jared will point out west of US 19 there, that is going to be a mandatory evacuation zone. We are getting ready to start that evacuation zone. It's actually already started. It's in effect now. That will be a mandatory evacuation zone. The area to the east of 19 and the west, where Jared is pointing at now, not the dashed area, but the rest of that in pink up to the north, is going to be basically our evacuation zones B and portions of C. That area is also underneath a mandatory evacuation zone. However, we're going to ask residents not to start evacuating from that area until 12 o'clock today. Again, the coastline, in effect now, get on the road. The next phase, that area east of 19, west of Little Road and west of the dashed area, will be at 12 o'clock today. The remaining area is under a voluntary evacuation order. That is areas that we believe with the between 6 and 10 foot of storm surge that we're going to receive potentially, that is an area that is a low-lying area, and it will, in essence, the salt water and the rain will bathtub there. That will be rising water, so we were asking people to stay away from that area, voluntarily evacuate, but it is not going to be a mandatory evacuation at this point in time. We will open up an additional 4 shelters to help out with that voluntary evacuation of that dashed area section somewhere around 4 o'clock this afternoon. With that being said, again, mandatory evacuation versus voluntary evacuation. You already heard the sheriff come up and talk about we're not going to forcibly remove anybody from their homes, but we're asking people to have common sense. If we've asked you to leave and it is a mandatory evacuation, we're asking you to leave. We are asking you to get out of harm's way. Shelters should be your last option. If you have the opportunity to go stay with a friend or a family member, then you need to go stay with a friend or a family member that is not in one of these areas. You're going to be much more comfortable there. You're not going to want to go to a shelter. Shelters have about 20 to 30 square feet of space per bed. So that is it. And I say per bed, per sleeping bag or bedding that you bring with you, because there is not cots at a shelter. So please keep in mind, if you're being asked to evacuate, we want you to evacuate. Shelters. So I'm going to reach out. I'm going to use you guys to help me out. We have a scenario that exists where we believe people will be complacent and wait to the last minute because it's just the way that human nature is. We want you to evacuate. We want you to evacuate early. But there is a situation where we believe we're going to have a lot of people on the roads when we have the arrival of tropical storm force and hurricane force winds. So we are reaching out to our faith-based organizations, our charter schools, any commercial properties that have wide open spaces. We're asking you to volunteer and contact us. Send us an email at the following email address, oem@pascocountyfl.net. If you're willing to open your business or faith-based organization, house of worship, to evacuees that are stuck on the roadways at the last minute and need shelter to get out of the way of the storm, we are asking you to contact us and let us know that you will be willing to do that. We would also ask, I want to set the expectation, we will send a building inspector just to ensure the structural integrity of the building before we put you on the ready and available list. Please reach out to us today to let us know if you're willing to do that. As Chairman Moore mentioned, that we're neighbors helping neighbors, and it's been very much that way. This is another way that we are asking our neighbors to help our neighbors. Volunteers. We've received a lot of questions and calls about volunteers. Right now we are asking, I have Major Winters here from the Salvation Army, if we should get to any questions about that. We are asking only for volunteer donations to be in the form of water or non-perishable canned goods that can be dropped off at the Salvation Army on Ridge Road. They are ready to and prepared to receive that. But again, donated items such as water, such as non-perishable items can go to the Salvation Army location on Ridge Road. I'll add to that, we did not talk about it, but I just remembered it. If you have tarps, you want to buy tarps for us, we're going to have a lot of people with roof damage after this. Feel free to donate your tarps, and again, the Salvation Army will take that. If you want to volunteer with us, we are looking for volunteers. Again, contact the email account at oem@pascocountyfl.net. You will have to go through a mild background screening to ensure that we can put you in certain tasks that the state and federal government require to be background checked. Again, we'll be working with the Sheriff's Office. They've assisted us with background checks in the past. We are simply just trying to find out if people are cleared to work in certain locations, such as with children or at a shelter and things of that nature. But again, if you do volunteer, you will go through a minor background screening, what we refer to as a level 1 background screening. The last thing that I want to talk about is, before we get into questions, is I want to thank all of the numerous Pasco County Board of County Commission employees, the Sheriff's Office employees, all of our constitutional officer employees, as they've helped us. And we could not do this without them. Everybody's a part of emergency management when something like this happens. Because we have so many of our employees involved in what's going on, I'm going to read through the following list of closures. Pasco County Libraries will be closed Saturday. Pasco County Extension Office is closed today and Monday. Pasco County Public Schools is closed today, and they will make decisions about next week through the weekend. Pasco County Parks and Recreation, Natural Resources Department has closed all county parks, and they have closed camping. Will cease today, Friday, September the 8th, 2017, and no reservations are being taken. Sunwest Park is closed. The Pasco County Clerk and Comptroller's Office and all the courts are closed. The Tax Collector's Office remains open. The Supervisor of Elections Office is closed. And PHSC, or Pasco Hernando State College, is currently closed. Animal Services will be closed to the public starting at 11 a.m. today so that they can assist us in the volunteer, or I'm sorry, not the volunteer, but assist us in doing the pet-friendly shelters. And going to that point, we are also looking for volunteers to help us with manning pet-friendly shelters and helping take care of pets. So again, faith-based organizations, regular volunteers, some of our college campuses that may have veterinary services, we would look to you guys to contact us, again, at oem@pascocountyfl.net. Pasco County Public Transportation is only running one bus per route today on a loop so that we can get those buses available to transport folks to shelters. If people are in need of being transported to a shelter, they need to, again, call our, I'm going to give this out for the first time, they need to contact our customer service center at 727-847-2411. That's 727-847-2411. And then last is all parks are closed in the city of New Port Richey. Administrator Biles referred that we have 10 shelters that will be open as of 11 o'clock, and we will continue to open shelters as needed beyond that. I am not going to list them all off. We did add, I will say of significance, we added 3 additional pet-friendly shelters. Those additional pet-friendly shelters will be at Sun Lake High School, 5A High School, and Centennial Middle School. Again, all of those opening today at 11 o'clock. For a full list of all of the Pasco County shelters, I would encourage our residents to go to pascocountyfl.net, and there will be a link to see all of those on that list. With that being said, I'm going to turn this back over to Chairman Moore, and he is going to facilitate questions. I will say again, Major Winters is here for the Salvation Army. If anybody asks specific questions about special needs, Chairman, that's going to go to Mike Napier with the Department of Health.
Well, thank you, Kevin. And again, you're going to keep hearing this, but I can't reiterate enough. If you're asked to evacuate, evacuate. You must evacuate. You saw the evacuation zones. And also, I'm going to mention our mobile home parks and people that live in RVs. You're asked to evacuate. You need to evacuate. Plenty of shelters are going to be open if they're not already open here in Pasco County. Special needs shelters. Everybody's welcome. Pets are welcome. We have plenty of shelters open now for pets too. So again, I'm going to keep reiterating it. You've heard it over and over again. If you're asked to evacuate, don't take the chance. Better to be safe than sorry. Just follow those rules and instructions. So with that, we can take questions. And yes, ma'am.
I've seen reports about space being set aside at Wiregrass for registered sexual offenders. Can you talk about that?
I will.
Let me take that.
Yep. Please do.
Yeah. I'll take that. The question was about sex offenders and sheltering them. So let me caveat that with a couple things. First of all, you have to provide shelter for people. I agree with any parent out there. I don't like sex offenders either. I don't like them around us. I don't want them near my kids. I get that 100%. But here's a situation we're dealing with when we deal with these storms. We know at the last minute, people are going to flood in. You're going to have hundreds of people flooding into a shelter. Like you've probably read about or seen in other places, there's county, you just can't accept, you can't sit there and ID everybody while they're waiting outside while this storm is going on. So what we did in Pasco County, we were preventive of this. We know storms happen. So working with probation, the Emergency Operations Center, and at the Sheriff's Office, everybody came together and this plan was put in place. that we know during a storm we're going to have to put in place for sex offenders. So we put together Wiregrass. Wiregrass, working with the school, we designate Wiregrass. But let me put a couple of other things out there. First of all, at every shelter, there will be deputies. There's deputies at every shelter. Second of all, we reached out to all the sex offenders prior to this storm. During the summertime, they reached out to all these sex offenders and told them, this is, you have to, if you're going to go with your family, this is where you have to go. Now, when they arrive at Wiregrass, they report in. If a sex offender fails to report in at any shelter and they just go in, that's a misdemeanor. However, the plan has been in place. They know they must report to Wiregrass. When they report to Wiregrass, they are separated. Their families are separated somewhere else. Their families are put with population, with everybody in the community. The sex offenders are put into an isolated room. There's deputies there watching them. So going back to that, yes, they do have shelter because there's a liability. If you don't shelter people, there's a liability on that. The second thing is we're proactive in it and preventing to make sure that there's a location that they go to, that they're not near kids, they're not near anybody else. They're going to be segregated off. And there will be deputies there. So as I go back to these shelters, we know human nature. As much as we stand here and we'll talk and we'll keep asking everybody to leave, they're not going to leave until the wind starts howling and bad things start happening. And when that happens, we know they're going to be running the shelters. We can't have hundreds of people standing outside while we do ID checks on them. It's not feasible. So that's the plan we have in place. I can promise you we're going to do everything we can to protect our families. But I, as a parent, just like everybody else, I don't like the idea of sex offenders being in these shelters. But at the same time if we had a plan, we have a plan in place, they're going to be in Wiregrass and they're going to be segregated from the rest of the population.
This might be another question for you because
Okay.
you guys are doing some ID checks. What about homeless individuals that don't have IDs? And then there are reports coming out of Miami-Dade of them being Baker acted if they refuse to evacuate.
You want that one?
military
Okay.
zones. So what's happening here with that?
So I'll take that one about homeless individuals. And the question was, what are we doing about homeless? There's rumors coming out of Miami about individuals being ID checked and then, Baker acted and so on and so forth. We have the claim here that we are becoming Pasco County is becoming Florida's premier county. What we are doing here, folks, we are becoming premier because I've been in this business a long time, 27 years now. And I can tell you what the Pasco County Sheriff's Office, working in conjunction with our Human Services Department and working in conjunction with the Emergency Management Division, that is premier. That's leading the way. It's setting best practices across the country. All right, so that's first. And kudos, Sheriff, to you and your staff for taking a lead and saying these are members of our society. Likewise, members of our society are the homeless. I want to be very clear. We are asking people to show up with ID, and that is not to run background checks. We're not running warrants and warrants for people to put them in jail. What we are doing is if someone comes to a shelter and they say, "Hey, I want to volunteer," well, you got an ID so that we can make sure if you're going to do something that needs to be now checked, you can volunteer. If a homeless citizen shows up and they don't have an ID, we're going to take them. We're going to take them in. We're not turning our back on anybody. We're going to take them in. So we have a plan. We're not going to Baker Act them. There are very, very clear federal and state directions on what we can and can't do. I've been in a city that's been sued for their response to disasters. My goal, nobody's going to sue us. We're going to be a premier county. We're going to do the right thing. You've heard me say it time and time again, standing up here in front of you. We're going to institute common sense, and we're going to do the right thing on behalf of our citizens, no matter their socioeconomic income, status, or race. We're going to do the right thing.
In case, to have it clear, in case that a person don't evacuate and is facing an emergency during the worst of the storm, should they expect to be rescued? No?
No.
What happens?
So the question was, somebody that's in a mandatory or somebody in Pasco County that doesn't evacuate. Now, we're clear on our evacuation zones, but if somebody in Pasco County doesn't evacuate, and to all Pasco County residents, there is going to become a point, and I want to be very, very clear on this. The sheriff talked about it. I talked about it. The fire chief has, probably sending me texts right now to talk about it again. when the tropical storm force winds reach 40 miles an hour sustained, 1 minute or longer, we will stop and cease emergency operations. If you have a heart attack, we are not coming to you. If your roof collapses, we will come to you as soon as we can. But we are not going to endanger the men and women of the sheriff's office, the men and women of fire rescue. We're not going to do that. We're not putting them in harm's way to come and rescue people. That is not what we're designed to do. If somebody has that fear, they need to go to a shelter, because we have law enforcement at every shelter. We have medical staff at every shelter. So if they're in fear of that, that's where they need to go. Or they need to go to another place where they can get those services. But very, very clear, ladies and gentlemen, when we reach 40 mile an hour sustained winds, and it will happen in Pasco County, we will cease operations. All right? If it's between bands and we can get back to work, we'll get back to work. You know, as those tropical storm force winds start to happen, there may be points that we can go out and do another hour's work, another 30 minutes worth of work, and we'll do that. But there will be times where we will cease, we will start, but then there's going to be a point in time we cease for probably days. All right? And I'm going to let everybody hear that again. We will cease operations for potentially days while we're underneath hurricane force and tropical storm force sustained winds.
What's the main reason for the evacuations west of 19? What's the concern? I understand mobile homes, but for everyone else, it's a lot of people.
So again, it's storm surge west of 19, and I wanted to be clear on something, and somebody came up here and talked about it. In that mandatory evacuation zone of these two zones, please understand that also includes all manufactured homes countywide. So all manufactured homes countywide are underneath a mandatory evacuation. All special needs patients that are dependent upon power for life, mandatory evacuation. All local, low-lying, flood-prone, known to have flooded in the past, all of those in the language, and the full evacuation order is online at PascoCountyFL.net. All, and I've said it in the past with you guys, all means all, and that's all that all means. All of those individuals are underneath the mandatory evacuation in addition to the area that's shaded here in red. So the purpose, to your point, is the coastal storm surge, and people are going to sit there. We know it's going to happen. Tropical storm force winds are going to come in, hurricane force winds are going to come in, and people say there's no storm surge. This is a three-phase storm, folks, and I want everybody to be very clear of that. Wind, followed by rain, followed by a whole lot more wind and rain, and then on the back side of this storm, when the storm lifts to the north of us, we will then get the backside storm surge from the counterclockwise as it moves out in the Gulf, grabs water, and starts to bring it on shore. That's where the storm surge is going to be. We usually get hurricanes for us coming from the Gulf, and it's on the front side of the storm. This is going to be different. That storm surge is going to come on the backside. Just when we think, oh, things are getting better, then the coastal community will start to see the water rise. All right?
Is there any more questions this time? Because if not, I'm going to bring Paula up. Oh, go ahead, CT, go ahead. Oh, hi, CT.
The number of people, an estimate that are in this mandatory evacuation zone. Also, if Kevin could talk about what changed between 6 o'clock last night and then 10 o'clock this morning. And also, how much space is there in these 10 schools? Yesterday we said there was 12,000 spaces available in 5 schools. So how many now?
Yeah, okay.
So CT's question was actually about a threefold question. So I'm going to start with one, and then I'm going to ask you to get the ones that I forgot, CT. So the first question he said, and I think I'm going to actually start with the second question he said, what changed between actually 5 p.m. last night and 10 a.m. this morning? What ended up happening, I think everybody knows what happened, and that is, but for our viewers, last night, the 5 o'clock reading, all of the models shifted back to some of the original Euro models. And we have been, and I want our residents to know this, we started meeting at 8 a.m. Tuesday morning because those Euro models showed a potential landfalling Gulf Coast hurricane into Tampa Bay. We started meeting, we started preparing for a Cat 4 or 5 hurricane in Tampa Bay, Pasco County. We've never stopped preparing for that particular worst case scenario. So that's why we feel we're so much better prepared today than some other agencies and organizations, because we've been in that mode since day one. And we said, don't ever lose sight of that. So what happened, to the question that CT asked, what happened? Those models and tracks shifted. So as we were starting to get ready for maybe tropical storm force winds, an east side event, it all shifted back. We tweaked some of our original plans, and we just reinstituted those plans that we had shelved for the time being, and we brought those back. So there was a significant shift, estimated 50 to 75 miles back to the west. There is still the potential that we have more shifting to the west. We are still ready for that. We are ready for our worst case scenario, which is a Cat 4-5 evacuation. We're ready for that. CT asked about how many people are in those evacuation zones. CT, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I'm going to say it's somewhere in the neighborhood of about 50,000 rooftops. And if we do that at 2.3 per, it gives me a very quick number of about 120, but I know I should never say this with CT, don't quote me on that. But I will get you hard numbers back. I will have Doug working on that to get you hard numbers. So just stand by. But we're looking at least about 100 to 120,000 people that we're asking to evacuate. I do know the number if we were going to ask for the Cat 4-5, which was 303,000. It was 3/5 our population. We're not there right now, but I'm thinking it's somewhere about 100, 120,000 CT. The last question he asked was, what's our shelter status? You know, we had about 12,000 beds, 8 to 12,000 beds in the original shelters that we opened. We're adding to that. Again, with the 14 shelters we are opening, I'll get that specific number. I know if we open all 25 shelters, CT, we have 35,000 beds. Again, I've got to get you that number. I don't have it right now, but I will provide that in a media alert to everyone about the number of beds available and the number of residents we're evacuating. So I will follow up that so you can quote me, CT.
Did you say you had an approximate number, Kevin?
Again, approximate number at this point in time as this news conference, I'm going to go on the conservative side and say it's between 100 and 120,000 that we're going to ask to evacuate. And then we're going to, I don't want to guesstimate at that shelter status. I'd rather get hard numbers. I know what it is, what we put out last week, or earlier this week, which was about 12,000. I know that we can shelter 36,000. I do not know where we're at with the 14 schools, but I will provide you that information. One more.
Why the area north of Fox Hollow?
So what we did, question, thank you. The question is, why the area north of Fox Hollow? CT, it's basic. People don't know where they live, what evacuation zone they live in. So what we did is we do have A, B, C, D, E evacuation zones. And we overwhelmingly were inundated with phone calls yesterday. What evacuation zone do I live in? I just don't know. But people know if they live north of Fox Hollow, south of Fox Hollow, east of Little Road, west of Little Road, and so on. So what we try to do is match up our evacuation zones A, B, and C as closely as we could with major roadways. And that's why we went north of Fox Hollow, west of Little Road, east of Seven Springs, Rowan, and Embassy, I can't remember, the Regency Park, up to Fox Hollow. So we were just trying to give people more definitive throughways that they know those streets. So that Fox Hollow was a widely known north or east-west street in that North Hudson area, if you will. That's why we went with that.
So, are there any more questions? If not, I'm going to.
How many 120,000 people you said you're about to evacuate or asked to evacuate?
Conservatively speaking, 100 to 120,000. I'll get you a solid number.
Great. So I'm going to bring Paula up for our Spanish-speaking citizens in Pasco County. So Paula, if you can come up and say a few words.
Buenos días, Paula Baracaldo, Pasco County. Este es un anuncio para recordarle a nuestros ciudadanos que hay una evacuación obligatoria para ciudadanos que vivan en casas móviles o prefabricadas, ciudadanos con necesidades especiales o discapacidades y aquellos que vivan en zonas de inundación. En este caso, ese es el área de color rojo en el mapa que estamos distribuyendo, y la segunda zona de evacuación, que es evacuación voluntaria, es para la zona que tiene rayas rojas en el mapa. Le estamos recomendando al público que por favor se dirijan al refugio más cercano a sus casas, a menos que tengan mascotas o necesidades especiales. También le recordamos que lleven suministros básicos, alimentos no perecederos, medicinas, documentos importantes y ropa para al menos durar unas 72 horas fuera de sus viviendas. Llenen el tanque de gasolina, aseguren sus casas, despejen sus jardines, asegúrense que no haya nada que pueda convertirse en un proyectil durante la tormenta. El condado también estará proveyendo transportación para aquellos residentes que tengan necesidades especiales o discapacidades. Para más información sobre el transporte, pueden llamar a nuestra línea de asistencia al cliente al 727-847-2411. Los siguientes refugios ya están o abiertos o se van a abrir en las próximas horas. Así que el refugio regional Fasano abrió a las 8 de la mañana esta mañana. Ese refugio es solamente para personas que tienen discapacidades, necesidades especiales, condiciones médicas y si tienen mascotas. Los siguientes refugios abrirán a las 11 de la mañana el día de hoy. Five Bay High School, también pueden llevar mascotas a ese refugio. River Ridge Middle School y High School, Sun Lake High School, Centennial Middle School, también es apto para mascotas en ese. New River Elementary, Pasco Middle School, Raymond B. Stewart Middle School, Wademan Middle School, Wesley Chapel High School, Wiregrass Ranch High School, donde pueden también llevar mascotas. Y las siguientes escuelas primarias se abrirán hoy a las 4 de la tarde para servir como refugios. Esas están en el lado oeste del condado: Longleaf, Odessa, Schrader y Trinity. Esas escuelas primarias van a estar abiertas, repito, a las 4 de la tarde el día de hoy. Para voluntarios o aquellas personas que quieran ayudar en la recuperación después de la tormenta, por favor envíen un email con toda su información a oem@pascocountyfl.net. Esto es solamente para aquellos que desean participar y tienen que pasar una revisión muy leve de récord criminal. También queremos recordarle al público que toda esta información está disponible en nuestro app, My Pasco App, en nuestras redes sociales por medio del servicio al cliente, de nuevo 727-847-2411. Y también queremos recordarles que durante la tormenta las compañías de electricidad y agua seguramente no van a poder proveer el servicio para ustedes, así que por favor mantengan la calma, tengan paciencia. Pueda que tengamos que pasar varios días sin estos servicios, pero si necesitan ayuda de emergencia, por favor no duden en comunicarse con nosotros. Vamos a experimentar vendavales, vientos posiblemente huracanados y inundación moderada. Así que por favor prepárense, no esperen hasta el último minuto. Esta tormenta es seria, así que por favor tómense esto en serio, lleven a sus familias, recojan todas sus cosas y prepárense. Gracias.
Thank you, Paula. Once again, listen to the warnings, follow the warnings. Check our website on a regular basis, check our Facebook page, check our Twitter page, and our thoughts and prayers with each and every one of you, and be safe. Thank you.